Welcome back to the Banana Slam Jaren podcast, guys. How you doing, monkeys? It's been a while.
I'm doing pretty well. The lower division of the DPC is going pretty chill for us, and I ended up starting my YouTube like I told you I was gonna do after months and months of
What's your
delaying it.
what's your experience so far with the tube of the U?
I mean it's honestly pretty chill. I'm mostly hands off. I just kind of stream, and one of my mods puts like timestamps of my stream for my editor to then put on YouTube. So like I don't actually do too much with it myself, which is pretty nice. But I don't know. It's difficult or trying to make like YouTube worthy content consistently. But for the most part, it's been pretty chill.
Yeah, it puts like a little bit of an extra stressor. I've noticed. Like,
Yeah.
you're just like thinking, could this be content? It's like in the back of your
Yeah.
mind the whole time. But for the most part, you kind of get used to it. But
Yeah.
the hardest part is to like not become like obsessed with YouTube content. It's like don't do things just for the content. Then you turn into Jenkins. But nah, I'm glad to hear you're doing the YouTube, man. I'm glad to hear you're getting into the. I mean, it's
Yep.
just more exposure, right? It's
Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna regret it. It's just, it's just, it's. I feel like it's gonna get difficult at some point because just competing and doing content in general can be a stressor in its own right, basically. But uh, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna regret it. YouTube is definitely it's gonna be an interesting endeavor, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, for all the people wondering what was happening with Monkeys Forever's cam here, whenever I apparently tab out of Discord briefly, it quickly turns his webcam off and back on. So we'll just not do that for like the next 30 or 40 minutes. But yeah, no, I think the Dota community desperately needs the content creation that a lot of streamers have started doing. I know you got into it. Kezu's gotten into it. I think Excalibur's doing it too. I
No, yeah.
think I think you got like LookyLooky, Jenkins, Speed,
I mean,
Henry.
hell, you even Koikfa, even though he streams rarely, he has a YouTube channel going nowadays. Also, I saw Arteezy, he started a YouTube channel. He has an editor for it as well. So
Uh, I uh, I think the biggest thing about Dota right now is that the DP. Okay, we can talk. We're going to segue this a bit, but the DPC setup is a little bit. A lot of the tier one players aren't enjoying it too much. It's like the way it's kind of crippling the ability to play like multiple tournaments throughout the course of the year because it
yeah,
lasts so long and all that kind of stuff. But the content creation side of Dota, I feel like, is finally coming to life. I finally
yeah,
like a lot of people are saying, "Are you scared with what Valve's doing with Dota to be like, the future of Dota's doomed or whatever?" I feel like more people are watching Dota streams now. Like, if you since when has NA had a view, had a streamer with like 8,000 viewers? Like Mason's
yeah.
the
That's
first one
true.
other than Arteezy that he's the first one that consistently streams, and it hasn't really hurt my viewership. You'd think like maybe these people are just watching him instead of other people, but like I'm pretty much getting the same viewership I've always gotten. I see you're getting pretty decent viewership too. I see um, people like Gunner when they sign on getting viewers, and
Yeah,
just seems like there's overall more people watching Dota, more people absorbing streams, content, YouTube. So that aspect of Dota is great.
yeah, for sure.
Excuse me, my throat is dry.
Mm,
But
that
I've been
sucks.
talking a little bit too much, uh, you know, based on my casting critiques, Kick W. But yeah, no. But what do you think? We'll just segue into the what I wanted to have the primary discussion to be is like, how are you feeling about the DPC setup and all that kind of stuff this season?
Um, I mean, so I definitely think like on one hand, this DVC season is like super good for trying to, get new talent into the smaller regions and stuff like North America, like South America, like CIS. I mean, some people may argue CIS isn't that small, but I do think there has been a lack of new talent in CIS as well. So I think on that aspect, like this new DVC season is really good because it gets more money circulating in like the tier 2, tier 3 scenes, and it actually gives players a chance to, make money doing what they love, and potentially being able to focus more of their time on Dota, and actually getting some return out of being the top 0.1% of their region. Even because in the past it literally, like, for North America, for example, if you weren't EG or Quincy Crew, you weren't going to a LAN event or making money or anything really. So I think on that hand, it's good. But as you kind of mentioned, for the tier 1 teams like EG, like Quincy Crew,
All
like
the
the
teams that
Zoomers
were
or
going to
Undying, or
majors, right?
yeah,
All
yeah,
the teams
yeah,
that were
yeah.
previously making money.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be struggling, because there's not going to be as much international competition. There's not going to be as many tournament or like third party tournaments, because each season runs on for such a long time, and et cetera, et cetera. So there are definitely issues with it, for sure. Like, again, I enjoy seeing Valve actually kind of give a shit about the tier 2, tier 3 scene for once. And don't get me wrong, that's amazing. But it like I feel like anytime Valve does something good for the scene, it's like they're taking something away. Like they're taking away the tier 1 teams like potential for just playing good Dota more consistently. And it's kind of like, it's kind of frustrating, because I do feel like there is a middle ground where you can kind of have the best of both worlds. But um yeah, I don't know.
The fact of the matter, in my opinion, is that there's $40 million that is going to
That just
TI
disappeared.
rather than like theoretically going to TI rather than like, come on, man. First place for qualifying is like 30,000. Like,
Yeah.
that's over
And
6 weeks. That's first place. You're literally the best in your region, and you're gonna make 6,000 each, minus like coach cuts, minus organization cuts for 6 weeks. Like,
and
it's
also,
laughable. Like, at the
yeah,
end of the day, it's
no,
fucking
truly.
laughable. I think
And
this. Go ahead.
also,
Go ahead.
sorry, I don't want to, I just want to add on to that real quick. And also, if you get bottom 8 at the major, you make $0 extra.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, I
like
forgot. I even forgot about that because I'm not
how
going to the
insane
major
is
or
that?
whatever.
How insane is that? Like, so even if you do qualify for the major, if you get bottom 8,
You're getting that 30K or
you're
whatever.
literally only getting the 30K for qualifying. Like, that is. I feel like there's just such simple solutions, BSJ.
I
There
mean, it's the
really
fucking
is.
dream for like tier 2 players who weren't on teams or tier
Yeah,
3 players who weren't on teams, because now you're just making money, and it's like Division 2 is barely less money than Division 1, so you're just
yeah.
like, guaranteed like $2,000 or $3,000 a piece. And quite frankly, in NA, that's like, it's just a bunch of pub stacks. Like, there's no actual team in the tier 2. I even saw, like, I'm casting obviously EU and CIS. A lot of those teams are just stacks as well. But yeah, like, for that, it's great. But
Yeah.
like, come on, like, the thing is that this isn't some new discussion. A lot of people have said this in the past. It's been said many times. Valve just doesn't give a shit, man. Like, they just don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
they're making money from the Dota scene, and they seem like they're just apathetic and fucking done. And it's like, the content side of things, as long as Dota's getting patched, it'll always be there. People seem to love playing and love watching Dota. Like, they love like the game as like a passion, getting better, like grinding. I think the toxicities like kind of come down a little bit. The problem is that there's still like 5 or 10% of people that seem like they're the type that like are ranked 200, 300 that didn't get into DPC, and they just seem pissed or something. Like, I don't know. Lately I've just had most people being better, but then like the people who grief are just way worse. Like, that's what I've had the last. Like, I just got done with a game where the Offlane Legion is just 0-8 and Brown Boots Midas, and
Hmm.
it's like everyone's who's griefing is just way worse right now.
Yeah.
But like, I think people like, I don't see what motivation people have. Like, okay, so you're giving the tier 2 scene money, right? Like, this is how I look at it. You're giving these 8th through 16th teams money, but why would they dedicate more than like 1 or 2 scrims a week to get anything more? Like, why would they try? They're never gonna beat EG. They're never gonna beat Quincy Crew. Like, eh,
Well, I mean, like, on that hand, I don't like I do think teams can get there with practice over time. Don't get me wrong. I truly do believe that the the more spread out like prize pool, while maybe it is a bit too far because like what is it, the top 14 teams of each region is getting, at
Yeah, top
least like
14. I think bottom two of bottom division don't get money.
yeah. So it's at least like 7,000 for the top 14 teams of each region.
Yeah.
Um which is like that may be too far for how every single team is getting money, like just a bit, but I do think that like it does encourage these teams at least to an extent to improve over time and actually aim for stuff like that of like, all right, maybe if we like talk to people better than us and understand concepts that we don't really understand as a team yet, and like we actually aim to improve, like maybe we will get to a point that we can take games off of and I mean I would definitely suggest baby steps of maybe we'll be able to beat the Zoomers or Team Undying or Sad Boys, and or like take a game off of them, or then maybe beat them in a match, and then kind of like work your way up from there of like, all right, we're going to be Quincy now, and then work your way up to EG, right? Like, and it's not just going to be like, oh, we're going from beating LookyLooky stack to beating EG and within a week. Like that's not how Dota is going to
I
work.
guess my question for you, since like you guys are probably top 2 or 3, if not best, of the Division Two region, like how much are you guys practicing? Like how much is your team
uh,
talking about
we're
Dota scrimming?
Well, scrimming, we're actually scrimming 6 days a week right now.
Really, you guys are going
Yeah,
hard, huh?
yeah, and like we're talking Dota. I mean, here and there, it's pretty much whenever there's like a good Division 1 game on, when we're all on at the same time of like EU or NA, then we all like hop on Discord and watch the game together and just kind of talk about Dota together. But
You guys are in Division Two, right? Like people are saying
yeah,
you're Division. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
people are saying you're Division One. Sorry, I was just confirming.
No, we're not Division 1.
Okay.
But but I mean, at the same time, we like four out of 5 of our players have gone to lands previously, and like we do feel like we are all competitive players. So like we you know we want to be ready for Division 1, assuming that we are going to be able to make it there. I mean, I don't want to act cocky or anything, but like we certainly believe that we can top two the lower division this season. So we want
Yeah,
to
you guys have a solid roster, and if you guys are putting in the work, I don't see why you wouldn't. A lot of these guys are just stacks that have no real competitive experience. So
yeah. Which is like, on one hand, I feel like it's really good for the stacks that don't really have competitive experience, because like I do feel like there are honestly. I feel like there are a lot of people. I'm just gonna refer to North America right now. I feel like there's a lot of people on competitive teams in North America who are like more than willing to help like the worst players improve if people just like approach them and are like, hey, I have this question about Dota, or this question about map movements, or this question about drafting. Like, so many of the competitive players that I know on like these Division 1 teams, and to an extent like even some of the more experienced players on the Division 2 teams, like they are more than willing to just like talk Dota with people if you're humble enough to like ask a question to someone. But the issue with so many people in this region is nobody wants to ask a question because they're like, oh no, I'm already the greatest Dota player ever. Like I
I
don't
just
need
got
to
out of
learn
a pub
anything.
with Charismic. He's like a nice staple of that.
Yeah.
Uh, nah, I think there's a lot of positive things that have come in NA in like the recent past. I actually plan to make like a video update because people are like, yeah, BSJ, the guy that just hates NA, and I'm like, I don't like fucking hate NA, man. It's just like, I've been in this culture for a while, and there's just too many griefers at this point. There's too many people who the problem I see in NA right now, are like generally improving, is that the role queue is a serious issue. There's like 50 people between rank 200 and 400 that are like only one role. And whenever they get matched with like top 100 players, they don't get that role because they're like a
Yeah.
mid or a carry player. You put them on support, and they're like supporting against like, Bulba, Rack, or some shit. and then you just fucking lose the game because they have no idea what they're doing. And then on the
Yeah.
other hand, you have, I feel like, a real big problem. No offense to all the other mids, especially one on your team or anybody else's team. You have like 5 elite mid players, and I feel like if they're in the game and one of those other mid players ain't in the game's a stomp. Like that's what it feels like right now. That's what it's felt like in the NA region for a while. I don't actually know. I feel like the gap has just opened a lot, and I think what you're saying is what is necessary to close this gap, or like to like make it just a better region in
Yeah.
general. Um, but I don't really know like the solution other than getting people to fucking talk, like you said, like get people to work together,
I
band together. Um,
I think it's something that just kind of comes with time. Like, I feel like North America specifically has just been so starved for like any attention for the tier 2, tier 3 scene, because like there truly just hasn't been anything in the scene for like since the beginning of Dota being formed, or like competitive Dota. It's literally just like North America has been looked at as like EG plus the extra team. And now whether that's been like Team NP, Quincy Crew, I
J
think,
Storm,
yeah, J Storm at one point, Flying or Fighting Pandas, I think, or Flying
yeah,
Panda,
fighting
I don't
pandas,
know.
I think, yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, like, there's always been that plus one team, and then there's been EG, and that's literally like what North America has been for so long. And now a lot of these players who have been, you know, quote unquote up and coming for a long ass time, they're finally getting put in the spotlight a little bit, and they're playing these leagues over 6 weeks or whatever, and they're actually competing for money, and it feels really good for them because of like they're finally getting some payback for committing so much of their lives to this really really stressful game. But now it's kind of like they have to go the extra step of actually putting themselves out there to be able to improve like even more, and like talk to players better than them and be like, okay, like, or rather like coming to the understanding of, okay, I'm not the greatest player ever, there's still a ton for me to learn, and just talking to people better than them, and like just being like, all right, like I really don't understand this aspect of the game, can you help me out here? And I to any of the people who watch our podcast that are in the position that I'm talking about, like, truly, I do implore you to like reach out to better players and just talk to them, because I promise you, so many people in the scene are willing to talk Dota. They really really are.
Yeah, I encourage it too. I think the upper tier players have actually come a long way in the last like year or so. I think people are more approachable, more like just more about the greater good of the region rather than keeping like obviously they're gonna keep things to themselves when it comes to like
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
secretive like
I'm
but
not saying they're gonna like reveal every single strategy, and they're gonna be like, oh, this is how you beat Quincy Crew. Like, we always make this movement at 6 minutes with a 6 minute rune towards the mid tower to force a reaction, then we all go top. Like, they're not gonna go that in depth for you, but I mean,
yeah.
they're definitely gonna like help you understand of like, oh, so in 5 minutes, siege creeps, like your team as a collective whole should be kind of talking about like, what are we gonna do for these 5 minute siege creeps and bounty runes, if anything? Like, are we gonna try and force a rotation? Are we gonna try and make this movement top, and get this kill or on their carry Lycan, so he gets a slower necro book timing, and we don't get overwhelmed at the 11-minute necro 3 timing? Like, there's so many small things that you can just kind of think about, and like, oh, with power runes our mid should rotate, or our support should rotate to mid with the power runes, and actually make plays off of them. Like, there's so many micro timings in Dota that you really do have to just kind of always think about and always be on top of, and it helps so much for teams to think like that. And to kind of like go off of that, and I'm not trying to specifically call LookyLooky out or anything, but like there's been multiple
Do it.
times there's been multiple times that I personally have reached out to Lukey, because Lukey, he's gone to 9K MMR before, and like, no, everybody gives Lukey shit, but like, I truly think that Lukey is a pretty decent mechanical player when like he understands the heroes that he's playing. But like, you can't argue like that with Pango. Like with Pango, he really does understand Pango to a T because he just plays it so much. But what Lukey struggles with is Dota concepts and what to actually do with certain level timings and stuff like that. And I've reached out to Lukey multiple times, just being like, Lukey, I am more than willing to just sit down with you and like go over Dota concepts and just talk Dota with you and like try and help you improve. And I've probably done that 3 times now, and he has never taken me up on it. And it's just like that's the type of thing that is so frustrating to me because it's like I don't know. I feel like people like Lukey are kind of the future of the scene and like the people who really should be trying to understand Dota at a higher level and then like you just see them not take up offers like that and just continue to be in the same echo chamber they have been for like
My heart is racing right now, dude.
Woo! We got a 50 times one. Another bonus.
Boom!
I love how pretty it is.
Ignition, and it's good. It's very good.
what 2 years now I want to say.
People will probably like clip this to LookyLooky or some shit.
No,
but
I-
here's
yeah, I know-
LookyLooky in a
people-
nutshell.
people
I'm gonna
will-
give
people will
you.
play me or
I'm
something.
giving you a 1 sentence description of LookyLooky. He sees creep wave, he farms creep wave. Doesn't matter like where his team is showing, doesn't matter what the enemy team's doing, doesn't matter like what his hero's job in the game is. Like he's actually me 6 years ago. Like I made it to top 10 back when Troll Warlord was broken and I was spamming the shit out of it because all I did was go from creep wave to creep wave, creep camp to creep camp, hitting creeps as fast as humanly possible. And like back then, I had no fucking concept of knowing what each creep wave meant, what like each lane meant, like what my job in the game was, or the team
Or,
aspect
like,
of Dota. I had absolutely no concept of it.
Or
I
like,
absolutely.
what showing on a wave actually means.
Yeah,
to, like, your team
what
and the
information
enemy
in the
team.
game's being
Yeah.
presented to me, I had no concept of that. And I like it took me like 2 or 3 years minimum to like actually acknowledge I needed to learn these things. So I understand that. Like I get why he thinks the way he does. But that's just the reality. The funny thing is I got told from like professional level players, team-based players, that same message for like 2 years. And I just refused to like back down. Like it's like, oh dude, I made top 10. What do you think? Like I must be good. I made top 10 MMR. It's like it's hard to like have that humility and be willing to, because basically by accepting your advice, he's saying he admits that you know more about Dota than he does. And I think that that's really hard for the average player to do. Like for me, it's been really humbling. It's not like I thought I knew more about Dota than Koikfa, but it was like really humbling to hear Koikfa's thoughts about Dota because I was like, holy shit, he's actually just on like a whole nother level than I am. Like just hearing him discuss things in Dota and the way he looks at things. Dota's a thinking game. Like Dota is all about how you view what you see. Like it's how you interpret what you see. Like that's all it is. Go ahead.
I actually when I was younger in Dota, I used to have the mentality that you could literally get yourself to like such a mechanical level in Dota that you could just turn your brain off because like you're just that mechanically skilled at Dota and like you can just kind of go into autopilot mode and just make your map movements based on what you already know about the game and just and like intuition and stuff and uh, over the years, like I'm gonna say specifically over the last 4 years, I have just learned how untrue that is. Like you cannot stop thinking in competitive.
You can't think
Dota,
for
like,
you can't
ever.
stop for like
Like
5 seconds.
you
You can't stop.
every single movement, every single action, everything you do has so many implications and cause.
Literally choosing between two creep camps right next to each other,
Yeah,
or like where you farm the creep wave from, the left side or the right side, could determine whether or not you die.
Yes, and like your positioning, every single little thing you do just matters so much, and like you
It does.
always have to be thinking about everything, and like the first person who kind of started to make me realize that was Fluff and stuff, like way back in 2014, 2015. But I would say the players who like really drilled it into me was Kyle, Z Freak, and Moo on Complexity the first time I competed with them. And I mean, let me tell you, man, going like I definitely used to have like a bit of an ego, like kind of like what you were talking about of like, oh yeah, I got high MMR, I'm super good at Dota. But then I played on a team with Kyle. Let me tell you, man, that ego disappeared. Kyle ripped through me like time and time again. And that was the roughest shit in my Dota career. Like, my goodness. I mean, like, Kyle and I, we get along great outside of Dota, but dude, Kyle destroyed my mentality for like a solid year. Kyle just convinced me how bad I was at Dota. And I was just like, God, like, not to even say he was wrong, because I was bad at Dota. He was so right. But like, it really, like, I feel like you really do have to make that mentality switch to go from like, a mechanically decent pub star player to like, you just need to get torn through. You need to get roasted. You need to understand just how bad you are compared to like the top of the top players, because like, you look at these top 6 TI teams, dude, they are all so good. It is insane how good these top 6 TI teams are. It like, you watch them, and if you are putting yourself in their shoes and you're actually thinking like every movement they're doing, why they're doing each thing, why they're split pushing when they are, why they're TPing where they are, like why when they're baiting so a 4-man smoke for their team can come in and collapse on the enemy team and like get an initiation that you never could have seen coming, but like it's all planned out because the communication is there, the movements are there, everything. It's just like, dude, it is wild. Top 6 TI players are just like, they're another breed, man. They really are. It is insane how good those teams are. It is baffling how good they are.
So I'm just gonna talk about like Ice and Crit specifically because I played against them today like twice. I laned against their dual lane twice.
Mhm.
Here's a problem I've been having lately. It's kind of like going off of what you just said. Is that okay? So as a caster, I got like a lot of praise for how I watched the Enigma game and the Liquid game because I pretty much predicted exactly what both teams were gonna do, and I feel like um, the crazy part about Dota that people don't understand that we've already touched on is that literally every second you have a choice, you have a chance to make the wrong call. Like every second you could be out of position, you could be late to a fight, you could be inefficient, whatever, right? And if you do that more often than the opponent, even if it's like 5 times over the course of 40 minutes and they do it twice, like they're going to win the game. And then it's like at the point where both teams are operating perfectly, that's when like the smoke ganks and the crazy team moves start to actually decide the game. That's why most of the time when you see like a tier 1 team versus a tier 2 team, the game's over by 20 minutes because the tier 1 team's made like 10 or 20 micro moves that are just better than the opponent. But my point being is that when I watch these games, what's crazy to me is that if I could envision, like while I'm just sitting here, got bird's eye view of the game, I like got all the knowledge I could possibly have that you wouldn't have while you're playing. I've got like clear headspace because I'm not focused on playing. These guys are just making the right choice like 99.8% of the game. And it's just like, it's so easy to predict tier 1 Dota because if you could think of this perfect play, it's so easy to like they just do it. They literally just fucking do it. So I was laning let me finish real quick. Sorry. So I was laning against Crit and Ice today. And the problem I've had recently is that 60 to 75% of my games are ranked 2 to 300 NA games, where like most of like the average MMR is like 7,800, 8,000. And I'm just gonna be honest, like I actually don't have a problem with NA. Like I've changed my mindset a lot, but like those games in comparison to playing like top 50 games against like Ice and Crit, it's unrecognizable. The game's not even fucking close to the same type of game that you play. And the problem I've had with NA is I don't actually know how to learn the concepts to play against these better players when the majority of my games aren't against them. Like the only time I feel like I can learn these habits is if I were to be on a team. Like I actually don't know like how to learn these habits in pubs. I don't think I can because my games are consistently low enough skill level to actually do these things. I literally get into these games, I'm like, God, I knew he was gonna fucking do that, but like 80% of my games, the guy doesn't do that. You know, like, fuck, you know, I'm playing against Ice, and crit, and like every time I'm even like that far out of position, I'm like, I know crit's about to roll on me in like 3 seconds, and then he rolls on me with their spear, and I'm like, I already knew that was coming, but like by the time I knew it, it's already too fucking late. You know, like you know, fuck, I had to see that like 8 seconds ahead of time.
Yeah,
That's the issue I've been having in pubs, is that this dichotomy of like half my games being crazy high skill, where I'm like, I actually feel out of place because I'm not thinking the same way they are, and then the other half of the games I feel out of place because I know I'm fucking better conceptually at Dota than these guys, but like nothing gave me. It's like, fuck, man. I feel like I'm in this limbo. I actually feel like I'm in this fucking limbo. It's crazy. Sorry, that's my.
That's just truly what makes Dota so fun. Is like
so frustrating, dude.
I mean, yeah, it is frustrating, but like I mean, I don't know. I personally, I've kind of like come to the point where I enjoy learning. Like so whenever I have a chance of, you know, playing against Arteezy or whatever, like I mean, or some games I'm against like Arteezy Kit Rack. That's kind of my equivalent to Ice crit for you. But like sometimes I lane against like Arteezy Kit Rack, and it's just like I just get excited because I'm like, oh baby, this is gonna be a fun lane, because Arteezy, he's so good at just aggressing anytime I try and harass him or go for a CS or anything. Like usually when I'm playing Furion, I just kind of get every deny in the lane against these like worst carry players, and they never actually pressure me. But then I play against Arteezy, and it's just like any chance he gets, he's on top of me, hitting me, like taking my mana as anti-mage, or, you know, hitting me with Ursa or as Ursa, and just like getting Fury swipe stacks up on me. And it's like it is frustrating, but at the same time, I love it. I love actually getting pressure, because I'm like,
dude,
oh my god, I actually have to think about how I want to lane this. Like,
no, today I had like really good games on average. I think like 5 of my 7 games were like top 80 across the board. Like they were really, really good games, and I have to think constantly. And if I get caught not thinking for literally a second, I'll get caught by a smoke gank or something like that. And I actually enjoy those games a lot. I don't particularly mind the rank 200 or 300 games, as long as everyone's like trying to win for whatever reason. I'd say at least 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 of those, I get just one guy in the game that just, whether it's on the opponent team or mine, he just doesn't feel like playing. And I'm like, well, okay, that makes that game not very fun. But when it comes to like playing against these better players, what I've noticed that you can basically learn about Dota, and what I've actually tried to make the center of my focus for teaching people how to get better at Dota, maybe they don't realize it because I don't know if I've ever explicitly said it, but like every time I don't want them to do something, they do it. That's like the best players in the world. That's how I know somebody is incredibly good. I'm like, I don't want them to hit me right now. I don't want them to dive my tower. I don't want them to pull the big camp. I don't want them to, you know, smoke gank me at my triangle. I don't want them to do, you know, these are the things I don't want them to do because it's inconvenient for me, or like, you know, even in lane, the micro things that you talk about with Arteezy, it's like, I want to go for this creep right now, and he knows it. And that's the second that he blinks on you with anti-mage. You know, like that's the second he's going to do that. Like that's how these good players are. It's like they know exactly what you're going to do based on what matters to you. It's like, if you have an objective, no matter how small, whether it's getting a last hit, whether it's, you know, smoke ganking for a tower, like they know exactly what you don't want to do. Like their decision making is so flawless based on that. It's like, I'm not strong enough to defend this mid tower yet. Boom, they smoke on that mid tower. It's like, we're not strong enough to contest them at Roche yet. They, you know, I'm 300 gold off BKB, and they know once I get BKB, we take Roche. So they take Roche when I'm 300 gold off BKB. It's like, dude, like, holy shit, they know exactly what is required to do what in the game, and what I can't deal with at the current moment. That's why I love playing against them, because it's literally all it takes to play against them is, what is the worst thing they could do from my perspective? Like, the most inconvenient thing they could do to me right now. And then they're doing it. They're like, at that moment, they're fucking doing it. And so the problem is, like, I don't know the right interpretation in these, like, lower rank games, because sometimes they do it. You know, sometimes they'll do, like, the proper moves. But most of the time, you just have, like, my 4-position spear breaker that's going Midas Ags and charging every single creep wave that I'm supposed to be farming. And I'm just like, I don't know how to play these games. You know, you know, like that one guy is just ruining the game. Like, I don't know how to play. Like, you know, my viewers see that I'm completely underfarmed, and I'm like, well, yes, the farm I'm supposed to have is on that guy. Like, he has it. So, That's been like my issue though, is that just the polarity of games has been incredibly high, and I think what I noticed in EU that has come to my conclusion about what I liked about the region was that the quality of opponent was consistent
Mm-hmm.
rather than consistently better necessarily. Everyone in the region seems like more leveled out. Like the difference between rank 400 and 100 is not that high, I think, in
Well,
EU.
a lot of that is attributed just to them having a much larger player
That's what I'm
base, right?
saying though, is like it makes sense why it works that way. But I'm now realizing in A, just like half your games are complete dog shit and the other half are actually really good games. But like
I,
I find a lot of difficulty adjusting from game to game. I like if I get 2 bad games in a row and then suddenly I'm in a good game, usually I'll die once in lane.
Mhm.
Like because I just got caught stupidly and
Yeah.
I haven't had to think straight for like the last hour and 20 minutes. So it's like I know it sounds like an excuse, but like
No, it is definitely
crazy.
it's very different going from the games where you have 3 top 200 or like ranked 200 or worse players, and then go into the games of literally all top 70 players, and 4 players on each team is on a top 4 team in the region or whatever. Like the mentality in the game really does just drastically change. Of just like you go from kind of this you kind of go from the situation where you can control the tempo of the game with your calls or whatever, like consistently, and that like pretty much everyone is just kind of going with your game plan, and then like you go to this go to this top 70 game where everyone has their own ideas and their own thoughts and like their own ways that they want to close out the map of the enemy, or like what objectives they want to play for. And no one's necessarily wrong, because like there's so many different ways that you can approach every scenario. And like sometimes you are gonna want to rainbow TP to the safe lane tower and actually defend at one time, and then smoke to mid and create your own pressure, and do stuff like that. And like those are the types of moves that you will see in those high MMR games. But like in lower MMR games, like it's very rare for you to get like 4 people on the same page in the time frame that you have to get them on the same page. Of like, oh, we're gonna go defend the safe lane tower like together. Usually it's just like one person TP's in, 3 seconds later someone else TP's in, and then they like die one by one, and you're like, oh, we lost 2 heroes and we lost the tower. Ha, damn. Unfortunate,
I
boys. On to the
it,
next one.
yeah, I think that's the number one mentality I've had to adapt is the whole unfortunate. That sucks. Guess we're down by 2,000 gold now. So I want to be clear to everyone watching because for whatever reason, it just bothers me a lot now. Is like because I critiqued what could be better doesn't mean I hate this fucking region, guys. Like I get upset, and what I've realized, and I guess I'll clarify again. I keep having to clarify recently. I hate about 10% of the people on the server. I hate them. They are literal subhuman, like garbage that wants to ruin the fucking game. Like they actually give a shit about nobody around them. They just fucking want to bring everyone down. Like there's about 10% of them. The other 90% are actually pretty good. Like they're actually nice to play with. The only problem in the NA region though is the lack of players means that rank 200 is way worse than rank 50. Like it is just way worse. The MMR discrepancy is very high. Like that's not like flaming the rank 200 guy. It's literally like there's just not enough players that are of 9K caliber. So when you queue in EU, or like that's the only region I've played in, you get games more consistently with like 8,500 to 9K players. But like in NA, because half of your games are 7,800 average, it's like if half my games on the EU server were 7,800 average, of course, like I would get the same impression that I'm getting now.
Yeah.
What I've actually realized is the region itself, it's just like there's no solving that aspect though. The only complaint I have is about those 10% of pieces of garbage that like I just have no desire to play with. I can't avoid all of them. There's like 50 of them. But yeah, like there's nothing to do about those guys. But yeah, I don't feel like what I've tried to do recently, monkeys. I haven't really talked to you about this, but I'm like trying not to like call out the NA region too much. Like I haven't really said anything during my casts. It's actually Kyle predominantly flaming the shit out of NA.
He's never gonna change.
Yeah, I actually, if you guys have listened to my cast during this NADPC or during the EU DPC, I haven't actually I haven't flamed NA a single time. I don't feel like I personally can learn here because there's a lot of players in the top 25-ish, 30-ish that just don't respect me. Like, they really just don't. I still get that impression a lot. There's at least 10 of them. They just, shit talk me half my games. They actually just straight up, they just assume I'm going to feed, so they either, overcompensate by playing around me too much or just leave me to die because they just don't give a shit. It actually happens a pretty good amount if you guys watch my games. I'm not going to try to play the victim card. It's actually just really annoying. I don't really want to play with them.
I've been there myself, BSJ.
I don't know what to do about it. I'm like, I know they're better than me. Like, I know they're ranked 20s and 15s on teams, and they're better than me. I don't know what to do about it. You know, the epiphany I've had today though, monkeys. I've kind of been starting to realize it, but sometimes we all say toxic shit. So for instance, I had a rank 70 Ember who kept showing on lane and dying to a puck. And I was like, yeah, dude, you probably can't show on creep waves. And he's like, thanks, man. Thanks for telling me how to play and shit like that. And I was like, okay, you know what? That was probably pretty toxic to tell the rank 70 guy he can't show on creep waves. So you know what I fucking did, monkeys? I fucking apologized to that guy. I actually said, Ember, I am sorry for my toxic comment earlier. I shouldn't tell you how to play the game. I actually said that to him. And I was like, damn, you know what his response was, monkeys?
What was that?
He said something along the lines of it's okay, you realize what we could have done differently this game, right? And we started talking about Dota.
Dude, that's such a beautiful moment.
Dude, we actually started talking about Dota. I don't even know who that guy fucking is. He's probably on a team of some shit. And I actually couldn't believe it. I was like, half of me expected him to say fuck you. Half of him expected, I really did expect that. That was I don't even say half of me. I think 80 to 90% of me thought I was gonna get a nice fuck you back, you piece of shit. And what I realized is that this may be some secret to a lot of people on the internet, but the people you're playing Dota with, they're fucking human beings, guys. They're actually fucking human beings. And a lot of the time, not that Legion Commander I just got done playing with, but a lot of the time, when they mess up, they just thought something different about the game than you did. It's when my support's helping me in lane too much. They thought they needed to help me. They probably had a rank 600 carry on their team last game that when they tried to pull, died 3 times. And they're like, well, and then the guy bitches at them for, pulling too much and says, you need to help me. And then they probably carried that into my game. That's probably what fucking happened. Let's give them some credit. So I just want to, I don't know if this is some speech or some shit, but just remember, guys, if the guy's not intentionally griefing you, that he's probably trying his best to win the game. Now, and it probably was just wrong in your eyes or a different view of the game than you had. Now, on the other hand, monkeys, what I would like to discuss as a segue here is I say that willingly, and I say that openly, and I say that there's a lot of different views you can have of the Dota game. When I have a rank 100 mid player, when the opponent puck is rotating, he's a morphling that is staticking the wave on his hill, says nothing, and then I get ganked by a rune puck 3 times, and the puck still has a full HP tower. What am I supposed to think about that? What am I supposed to think about that, monkeys? I said one word that game, and you know what that guy said to me? He said, how come BSJ is so fucking annoying? And I was like, I don't even know what to say to that, dude. What do I say to that? What I literally said to him was, after we took a fight, what happened was I got caught as Wraith King, and I had to use my ultimate in BKB, and we were disengaging, and as we were, running away, we lost, a support. He just goes in, saying, let's get him, and then just feeds, and I'm like, dude, he's like, oh, I thought we were fighting. I'm like, I don't have BKB or ult, and you're, running, what the fuck are you doing? And he said, you're so fucking annoying.
I mean,
do? What did I do,
si-
monkeys? I'm
si-
trying so
situations
hard,
like
man.
that, yeah.
I'm trying to be PMA, monkeys. I'm trying.
See that stuff really isn't. That shit really isn't your fault. I think like a
trying.
lot of that just stems on to like it kind of goes off what you said before. Like Dota players are human beings, and you know, you usually what I've learned, and you know, I'm not even perfect at communicating in pubs. Like I do my best to not say anything in hindsight or anything, because you know hindsight's 2020, and like in my opinion, the most toxic thing that people do in pubs all the time is a play goes wrong or like something bad happens, and then everyone starts talking about what you could have done before the play went wrong and like what you could have done differently. Like
And that's like it's already done, right? And it can't
yeah,
be changed.
and
It
it's
can't be
like
undone. Yeah.
that's not how you communicate in Dota. It's like whatever just happened, like I don't care how bad it was, how unfortunate it was, like I don't care about any of that shit. Talk about what you can do. Like someone gets picked off in a shit way, just go, all right, when this guy's up, we should go smoke and like try and make this happen. Or when this guy is up, let's finish these 2 items, and then maybe we're gonna be able to do something like in like moving forward, right? Um, oh my god, I'm losing my train of thought. I had something.
Choo choo,
Uh,
monkeys. Get back on the train. Hurry.
yeah, I'm trying. What I was gonna say was like I'm not even perfect at communicating in pubs, but or yeah, what I was gonna say is like with stuff like that, it's like that Morph he probably went in and like in his mind he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna fight, we're gonna go do something, like we're gonna kill them all, and then he just goes in and dies or something, and then it's like you have to understand like. He already probably feels like shit about himself, right? Like he just waveformed into like the enemy team and just died by himself. So then it's like literally when you go like, dude, what are you doing? Like we're waiting for this item. It's like after he dies, like he's probably clicking on his allied heroes and stuff, and he's probably like, oh yeah, like I'm fucking stupid. And like if he's self-reflective at all, that's probably the thoughts that's going through his head already, like innately, right? And then you comment about how stupid that play was, and then he's just like, fuck man, I know. I'm fucking stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Like I get it. Yeah, it's kind of like rubbing salt in the wound almost when you do stuff like that in pubs. But like then the other
It's
issue
so
is,
hard to say nothing.
no.
You
I
are
know.
absolutely correct. It is just,
But,
it's so fucking hard to see that
no,
shit and just say
for
nothing,
sure.
dude.
But the other
You're right,
other
though.
issue with
You're right.
pubs, the other issue with pubs though um is that the only chance that you have to even talk about Dota with the majority of these people, because not everyone is on everyone's friends list, is like the only time you can talk about the game is literally in the game. So like if you want to have any opinion about someone else's play, the only time that you can talk about it is like when someone's dead and like you can't do anything as a team or like something like that. So then like it's kind of like a chain reaction of like, oh, people want to get their opinions in of talking about Dota with each other and being like, dude, what are you doing? Like this is so dumb. But then it's like that just kind of tilts you even more in the game, right? Because it's like you just made a bad play. The last thing you want to do is talk about that bad play in mid game, because then you're just thinking to yourself, oh my god, this was so garbage. Like why'd I do this? Oh.
It's true. There's no worse time to talk about a mistake than right after it happens.
Yeah.
I acknowledged it. I acknowledged it on my stream, and I said, I definitely became toxic this game. I think for me, what I've been working on is that maybe just be toxic like 1 or 2 games a day. Maybe like max 1 or 2. I'll give myself like an allowance right now. Like I'm trying not to be. But I feel like if I go from being passive aggressive whenever I'm losing to maybe being passive aggressive once a day, okay. Okay. Now I'm starting to acknowledge it while it's happening so I can be apologetic. I feel like I'm making strides. I feel like the things I'm trying to do, a lot of people, at least in NA, not because like they suck, but because I play mostly with NA and I know it could be done. A lot of them could be fixed. A lot of people don't do that. As you said, there's a lot of people that focus on the mistakes that already happened and they harp on it a lot. It has nothing to do with how to win the game. I'm like, hey guys, can we just talk about like how we're gonna win this game? Like that'd be cool. I think you mentioned what you think is like one of the most toxic things, and while I do have that up there, I think one of the most toxic things is my teammates when one of them is griefing, like straight up, like they, it's the Brown Boots Midas Legion, that the remaining 4, or like I guess the remaining 3, not including me, spend their entire game bickering and arguing with that guy rather than playing. And for me, I'm like, okay, guys, if we have one idiot, we can maybe win the game. Okay, we can maybe win the game. But the second that you start arguing and bickering with that one idiot, you also joined him in idiocy. You are now also an idiot. So can you guys not make it so I have 3 or 4 idiots on my team and just make it 1? I need you guys in chat and everyone watching this, wherever you may see it, for the love of God, if somebody is intentionally ruining the game or they're not trying their best to win, please mute them, act like they don't exist, and try to win the game. Please. Like, Dota would just be so much better. At this point, I actually think the people that talk to that guy are worse than the guy. Like, I actually think it's more annoying for them to be arguing with that guy because they're also enabling him. They're also, like, giving them the attention that they want.
Exactly.
So I just want to say, guys, that I think 4 out of 5 people can win the game most of the time. Like, meaning you're not going to win. When I say they can win most of the time, I mean, like, most games are not unwinnable when you have one idiot. But the second one of you guys joins in, I used to do it a lot. I sometimes still do it, but I still, I think I've gotten way better at it. The minute one other person joins in, the game's over. Like, the minute one of you catches the fucking idiocy disease, it's done. So, yeah, I just want to give that PSA. I want to give the PSA. It is a hard thing to learn. It is really hard to have the discipline to just ignore that guy. It is very difficult. That doesn't mean it's not what you're supposed to do, guys. Please. That's all I got. Request for if there's any top 500 to 1,000 North American Dota players in this chat, please, for the love of God, I would love you so much more.
One other thing, just on the topic of things or like behavior that we consider super toxic, the other type of behavior that I find really toxic is kind of like the opposite end of the spectrum that we were just talking about, where like there's one player who like is trying to make the correct play, but he requires his team to make the correct play.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say anything to his team about making the correct play or anything. He just like goes to the area of the map that, like, while he's technically correct in, like, yes, we are supposed to play that area of the map, but he just does it alone, goes into like 3 heroes and dies by himself without saying a single word. And when after he dies by himself, pings the team and goes, "What the hell, guys? Why aren't we here? We should be here. I'm dead because of you guys." And it's just like, I mean, if you like said something and tried to get the team to go there and like waited the appropriate amount of time and then did that, okay, sure, I can understand your frustrations, but
I've been a culprit of that one myself. I think it's very easy to do that as a carry player because I think specifically carries do that the most.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard as a carry mentally. So I want to express some empathy, not make excuses. I want to express some empathy because I know I used to do this a lot, but I'm actually trying to do it way less. I think I've gotten way better at that too. But it's really hard to go from game to game, as I mentioned earlier, where half the time you have like really good support players who like play around you exactly as they should. They're the ones making calls. And like the other half of the games, you're like, guys, I've got a BKB, let's go fight. And then you just see 2 people feeding all over the map. It's like, it's actually really taxing. But at the end of the day, what you're saying is incredibly toxic. It is toxic as like somebody who's expecting their team to do something, especially when you haven't communicated what that something is. Yeah. And just a reminder out there to people that like if you want something done, like try to communicate it. If the guy doesn't listen, then the only thing you can do is just not do it. Like, just don't. And like, because the worst thing I agree with is that you say, let's go push top, guys. Nobody shows up. You go push top and you feed because nobody's there. And then you say, guys, I told you to come top. Like, It's like you're the like what I've realized in those games, and I'm sure the lower and more you go, the more likely it is to happen. You actually just have to sit
100%.
back and wait for your team to eventually do what you want them to do. Like, so if I know my objective, for instance, as a carry, say I got a BKB, I'm like, I'm ready to fucking take Roche. I'm going to hit creeps until my 3 or 4 heroes walk into Roche. Like, that is what I'm going to do. I'll just say, hey guys, I'm ready to do Roche whenever. I'm ready to take top tower whenever. Like, that's what I'll say. That's what been my coping mechanism has been, and it's actually worked a lot. Whenever I'm in low skill games, like rank 500 or less, and I say that, and I just wait, I literally just fucking wait, we actually end up winning the game. I'm like, okay, like, the fact is, if your team is bad enough to not hit the timings, most likely the opponent team is the same way. Like, that's how MMR works. So there are games, though, like my last one, where your offlaner just goes 0-8 with a Midas, and you're going to lose the game. Like, that happens, too. And we have to embrace those games as, like, there's nothing we can do about it. What I want to wrap up this podcast with, because it's been about 50 minutes, we've, been a good conversation. I actually got a donation question. It didn't go off because I don't have alerts on, but it's actually a good question, so I'll ask it. Somebody said, I feel like if I was a streamer, I would be way less toxic in game, because at least you can vent your frustrations to chat instead of tilting your team. Do you feel that way at all? What do you think, Monkeys?
To an extent, I definitely think there is some truth to that. Like, it is cathartic to be able to vent your frustrations and have people kind of listen to you and just kind of sympathize with you when you do have like these negative experiences and stuff. So definitely, I mean, for sure, like I would say that is a benefit of streaming, like without a doubt. I mean, don't get me wrong though. There are also a lot of stressors of streaming, like having chat like literally analyze every single move you do and like laugh at every mistake you make, even though like Dota is a very high tempo, like high speed game where you're constantly making a ton of micro decisions and like obviously if you're not playing Dota, it's a lot easier to have in uh but like as you've said before, a bird's eye view of the game and just kind of like understand the map positioning and stuff and like everything. But for sure, like it does help. It does help just with not being as toxic and not being as frustrated to your team. Because I mean, venting is definitely a useful thing for in any human being, no matter who you are. um, and there's one other thing I wanted to say, but I'm kind of blanking on it. So you can go if you have something.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief. Like, I think we talked about it with Crit when he guested on the podcast. I think that would be a good episode for you to watch. Kia Doral, the guy that donated, he talks a really good amount about like his perspective of streaming. I think it was like a really mature, well understood. Like he has a good grasp of the positives and negatives of streaming. For me, I think the worst part about streaming is, you said yourself in game that one of the worst things you can do is like flame somebody immediately after they mess up. What I'll tell each and every viewer here right now is that the odds are about 99.9% that if you can point out a mistake that I made, I know I made that mistake. Okay? I am way better at Dota, so is Monkeys, than you are. So if you can tell that we messed up, we almost certainly know that we messed up. And it is incredibly toxic. Imagine if you got out of a game and you knew you threw the game and you had people telling you threw the game repeatedly and how they think you should have played and how you could have done that better. It is incredibly toxic and is really hard to deal with and get used to as a streamer. So what I'll say is, like, for me personally, when I'm having days like this where I'm not even in a bad mood, I just didn't feel like dealing with people. I just wanted to focus on the game. I don't know if you've had these type of days, but where
I already know where you're going.
Yeah, I just have days where I know if somebody in chat does something stupid, I'm going to react poorly to it. Like, I know I'm going to get pissed at the guy who's just trolling me or is just some dumbass on the internet.
I was so bad with that in 2020. I was so bad with that.
So any day that I know I will react negatively to my chat, I just no cam, no mic. That's what I've started doing. I just do no cam, no mic. And all my viewers are like, BSJ, can you unmute team talk and all that kind of stuff? But for me, when I'm in that mood, what I notice is I want to vent. Like people have probably noticed how much I'm venting right now. Probably they definitely noticed. Like if I had left my cam on and my mic on today, every time one of my teammates was doing some stupid shit, I'd be venting every single time. Even in the games I won, where I was actually pretty PMA during the game. And I've noticed if I mute myself and I turn my cam off, in those games, when one of my teammates is being a complete dumbass, as long as it's not so game losing that, like that Legion or whatever, that I just objectively look at the game and say, okay, how do we win? How can I play this game? I don't really say much to my teammates. I usually am much less toxic, much more objectively viewing of the game. So as a streamer, there are a lot of positives, like you get held accountable. That was like the TLDR of what Crit said. As a streamer, he feels like he has to be better behaved and more respectful because there's a lot of people watching him.
Yeah.
But then there's also that aspect of all the things we've talked about, from toxic teammates talking to you about Dota right after you make a mistake and stuff. Chat does that like 100-fold. Like you guys actually just do that insanely ridiculous amount that I just can't stand. So it's not all of you, but the beauty of this conversation that I want to have, just to wrap up my point, is that there are a lot of you in chat that do that without realizing you're toxic. Like you're not trying to be toxic. You're not trying to troll the streamer. You're actually just trying to talk about the game, but the way you come off is so toxic. So
it's because it's through text, right? Like
yeah,
you really don't have the context of like how people are saying. Like I swear people are sarcastic in my chat all the time, but like
it's
I
not
don't
fucking
recognize
funny
your-
when you just came out of a
yeah,
really tilting game.
and
It's not
especially
funny.
like if I don't recognize your name and like I don't actually know like who you are as a viewer or something, like if you try to be sarcastic with me, I'm just gonna take or like read what you say seriously, and I'm just gonna be like, well, shit, you're just being an asshole. Like,
You're literally just an ass.
I don't want to deal with you.
Yeah. So nowadays, I've tried to assume people aren't being assholes. Like they just don't realize that they're being assholes. So a lot of time, if it looks like that, I'll just like time them out for 24 hours, and I'll say, "Hey, man, I don't appreciate you talking to me like that, but like I understand you probably weren't trying to, be an ass." There was like one guy I had to permaban from donating. Like I just right after I got out of probably like a 5-game loss streak, the last game itself was one of the most tilting games of Dota I've ever played, and he just donated saying, "You should have just bought a BKB." I just fucking perma-banned his donations. I was like, dude, fuck you, man.
I didn't even know you could ban.
Yeah, you can ban people from donating. I'm like, dude, you probably didn't mean it, but that was like actually the most fucking annoying donation I've received in like a year, so you're fucking donated from banning. Probably cost myself like $100 there because he kind of donates a decent amount, but hey, what can you fucking do? But yeah, so
That's funny to me.
yeah, I figured that would be a bit of a comic relief. I think that this, there's a lot of people in my chat that are like memeing about how much I'm complaining. I think this is like reasonable venting. I think it's okay to vent about shit that's frustrating because I also think we're talking about ways to do it better, ways to handle it better.
Dude,
It's kind of
this conversation has actually just been incredibly productive in my.
I feel better after this conversation, monkeys.
Like, if people genuinely think like you're venting too much or anything, like they just don't understand how stressful Dota is.
What I will say, guys, the guy that says I'm venting and like just bitching this whole time, you're the kind of guy that has no girlfriend because whenever they try to talk about their feelings, you try to solve their problems for them rather than just listening. You guys realize that all it takes to process is to just like all it takes to fix things is to just process shit, dude. Like so many times when you're stressed out, when you had a bad day, when you have something in your life that's causing you issues, all you want to do is just tell somebody about it. Have them acknowledge that it is something that's worth being like that they're it's not like good to dwell on it, but it's okay that it stressed you out in the first place, okay? I feel like a lot of us toxic masculinity, whatever all the words that we would use, I'm probably getting called soy boy right now and shit monkeys. It's okay for shit to frustrate you, and it's okay to talk to somebody about
No,
it.
for sure.
That's what I'm telling you guys.
I'm not laughing at the message. I'm laughing. I'm laughing at you just calling that one specific viewer.
You
out.
know he's that guy, though. You know he's that guy. He's
No, for
probably
sure,
like,
for-
his
no,
girlfriend's
you're not
probably
wrong.
crying after having a bad day at work, and he said, "Can you just stop crying now?" Like, that's probably that guy, you know?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That's just how it goes. I always enjoy my conversations with you monkeys. Sounds like a lot of
Absolutely,
people in chat have enjoyed it too. We should do this more often, monkeys. We've only been doing it once every couple weeks, you know.
I mean, we say that all the time.
Yeah.
It's like 2 weeks go by, and we're like, oh yeah, we should do the podcast.
It's more so Glatzar, you know, saying, "Hey, you guys,
Yeah,
podcast anytime now." But yeah, no, I'm just kidding, guys. It's one of those things where as Dota players, every time, I'm sure this is similar for you monkeys, as a final thought. Every time I talk about mentioning the podcast, I think to myself, but that's one less Dota game.
Yeah, I know.
It's so hard
You're
with
so addicted to Dota.
dude, with
It's
every
so hard to stop.
everything in Dota that I have to do for my job or whatever, that's like not a game of Dota. You're like, but I could have played a game of Dota right there. You know, that's
I know. Literally everything that you compare to, like time wise, you're like, all right, I could go to the gym and work out, or I could play 2 games of Dota.
it really is true. You know, it's a problem, especially for workaholics such as myself. But thanks again, monkeys. Love
Thanks
talking
for
to you,
having
buddy.
me. Enjoy it as always.
Have a good night, buddy.
Yep. Bye, podcast people.
Yeah, bye, podcast.